Come decorate an octopus tentacle with me. This is part of the Under the Sea cookie set, and we're going to get started with just a blank circular cookie. And I have an edible pen that I'm making a tentacle-like shape. And this is going to be the template that I start decorating on top of. And I don't love the initial shape, so I kind of come in with my pen and reshape it. After I have that initial outline of the tentacle, I'm creating almost this like worm shape on top because we want to differentiate between kind of the top of our tentacle and the bottom of our tentacle where the little suckers are going to be on. So after you've outlined it with your edible pen, you're going to come in with your white royal icing and you're going to outline the cookie and then outline the tentacle. And so you'll note that I don't go fully around the whole cookie with the white icing. I go from one edge of the tentacle to the other edge of the tentacle, and then I'm going to outline the tentacle in that white icing. And I have a weird issue with my piping bag where for some reason the tip of the piping bag like split and I end up getting two streams of icing coming out of it. It's very strange. Good reason to buy higher quality piping bags, but I actually think this sort of thing can likely happen with any piping bag. It's just less likely to happen with a higher quality, kind of more durable plastic piping bag. Once you have added your outline, you can go in and start filling in with that white icing. And this is where you can see the weird like two streams coming out of my piping bag. It was stressing me out, let me tell you, because when you're trying to get your icing in one specific area and it's coming out two ends, it's not nice. It's just not easy to work with. One thing you might have noticed that I did on this octopus cookie that I don't often do on cookies is I just outlined the cookie once. And that's partially because of the icing I was using. I wasn't having an issue with my white icing kind of overflowing or anything. It was a pretty solid consistency. You might think you decorate cookies every month. How are your consistencies not solid? Well, decorate some cookies and mix some icing and tell me how consistent you can get your consistencies to be. Because they can be very similar, but sometimes you just have it a little flowier than you want it to and you don't realize until you start decorating cookies. That's why this is a hobby, guys. That's why this is a hobby. So once you have all that icing filled in, I always like to come in with my scribe and just make sure it's going to all the edges, that it's filled out exactly where it needs to be filled out. And then you're going to set this cookie aside and you're going to let that white icing dry a little bit. So it is a little matte. It's what we call crusted over. So that when I add this dark blue on that little triangle on the left-hand side, that's our top of our tentacle. That these two, the dark blue, I think I said light blue, but I meant dark blue. The dark blue and the white royal icing are not going to flow into each other. The royal icing is going to keep its edge and the dark blue is going to keep its edge. And I go over this about 2, maybe 3 times before I start filling in with my icing. And I want to be a little bit more precise with this than I am with the white icing because it's a smaller area to cover. So I just don't want to rush it because I really want to keep this shape how I want it to be. And I'm going to come in with my scribe and fix any sort of edge. Mine actually flowed really nicely. Then we're going to set it aside again, let that crust over before we come in with the purple. And I'm just making sure I don't have a free edge for the purple to flow off of. And then I'm doing what's called a pressure pipe where I'm forcing more icing out of my piping bag than it would just flow naturally. And my piping tip is almost like it's against the cookie. So it's not letting the icing flow out of the piping bag, which I often recommend when you're decorating an edge. But I'm just making sure I have icing all the way to each edge, that white and the blue edge, before I fill in the second. Before I fill in between, not the second. I don't even know what the second would be. Then I'm going to come in with my scribe and just make sure that everything's where it needs to be. Like I didn't get the icing all the way to the edge of that outline I put on the free edge of the cookie. But then once this is done, I'm going to set it aside, let it dry. You can see it's a little crusted over. And I'm going to come in with my light blue and pipe circles. And I wish I did not pressure pipe. I wish I had just let the icing flow out of the bag and I went in a circle 2, maybe 3 times, but probably 2. Because as soon as I piped these circles on, they started spreading further, and they totally look okay. The tentacles were my absolute favorite from the set by the time I was done. But they could have looked a little bit neater, and I would have liked it just a little bit better. So I start at the bottom. They're going to be a little bit bigger at the bottom than they are at the top. And then once you get those piped on, you're going to grab your dark blue icing and you're going to fill in the center of these holes. So you don't have to add a lot of icing here. You're just looking to fill in these holes to complete your octopus tentacle cookie. And again, this is one of 4 cookies in the Under the Sea set. There is a jellyfish, octopus tentacle, a starfish, and a fish mermaid scales. I hope you give the Under the Sea set a try.